I spent 30 years in the technology industry. I never thought I would get behind on technology. And then AI came along, and for a minute, I was. So, why this topic? Why right now? And I tell you, I get asked about AI all the time from my financial planner, people on the street. We talk about it at the dinner table. AI, AI, AI. You can't turn on the TV anymore and not see something related to AI, especially on the news. And we're going to talk about that. So I decided to create a video and a little bit about AI. And this isn't a how-to video. It's really, I think, in terms of what you need to know in order to use AI. Not how to use AI, but a few things you need to know. And I'm going to get into a few examples as well. So one thing I thought was funny is I started thinking about AI is we've been using AI for a long time. I mean, like a really long time. And some examples of AI that you've already been using, your spam filter and your email. It's been using AI for a long time. I bet you are glad that is working really well for you, as well as photo research. Anytime you, or excuse me, search. I don't know if you do it, but when I go into my phone, I have thousands of photos. I want to find a photo of let's say, a particular thing. That seems really good for that. Looking for, like, let's Airstream. It'll show me all my pictures of every picture I've ever taken of an Airstream. As well as voice assistants, Siri, Google Assistant, any of those types of things, all use AI to actually process your voice. That was probably the first people started hearing the word AI. I don't know, maybe not, but it is when I started hearing about it quite a bit. And it scares people. And I think the last one that I find very interesting is around streaming recommendations. Anytime you use Netflix or Hulu or Spotify or any of those things, YouTube, you're watching this video, maybe because you've subscribed. If you haven't, please do that now, like it as well. But if you actually showed up on as a recommendation, that's AI. Kind of interesting, isn't it? That you've been using AI all along, it just wasn't called that. And I think, and this is partly why I wanted to create this video, as I knew I was using AI with all those things I just said, but I've been finding it to be a useful assistant in many different aspects. Trip planning, that's going to be one of my examples. I do all my trip planning now using AI. I don't do all my pack list stuff like that. Every trip I seem to use it a little bit more. I also use it when drafting letters or emails. Since I'm retired, I do less of this, but occasionally I do need to send a more formal email, whether it be like to a lawyer or an insurance agent, whatever, and I wanted it to be checked. I don't have it write my letters, but or emails, but at least I can have them proofread and things of that nature. And researching new hobby. This is my favorite topic, and it's actually demo number 2. I'll get to that later. And then the last one is one that I have never used it for, but I've seen examples on YouTube where people use it to dig into complex documents, contracts, for instance, or even uploading your phone contract. Tell me, like, I want to get out of my phone contract. What are my choices? What are my obligations for a new phone contract? If you're leasing a building or an apartment, you can have it ask about the risks. That goes on and on what you can do. Pretty interesting stuff. And I have just, like I said, haven't had a need for that yet. So let's actually take a look at how I use AI. And I think you might find both of these examples informative and maybe even open your eyes to how you could use it. The first one is around trip planning. And then the second one is going to be around researching a new hobby. So let's cut over to those two examples now, and then we'll come back and move on to things you need to keep in mind as you use any of these AI tools. Okay, on to our first demo. And what you see in front of you is Claude, the desktop version. And remember now, this isn't a how-to video, it's a how-I video. So I'm not going to get into depth of Claude, but I am going to get a little bit into depth of the prompt, and I'll get to that in a second. But on the left-hand side over here is like the tray. You can make it go away with this button up here, and you see all my old chats down the left-hand side here. Planning for this video, actually, I use Claude to do that. I've mentioned that before. Searching for a home phone replacement without internet in Richfield, Minnesota for my mother-in-law. I use Claude for pretty much all my research now. Project's an interesting thing, get into maybe in a later video, but for now, we can actually close that. And so you see in front of you the prompt window. And like I said before many times, a prompt is actually a request. You're asking Claude a question, you're commenting on something Claude did or whatever. It's a conversation. Think of it like a chat window. And how you actually prompt Claude is really important. You can see right here, I previously typed up, and then pasted in here my prompt. And let's read through it a little bit, and then we'll let it run. Hopefully it'll go fast here. But last time I did this, it took quite a while for some reason. But if you think about a prompt, the first thing you need to do is tell it who Claude needs to behave like. So you're the world's best travel planner for retirees taking vacations to interesting destinations. Now, you might chuckle at that and think, well, that's kind of goofy. But I have seen many, many YouTube videos on Claude, and almost always they tell it who to behave as. And it does make a difference. I've tried it with and without, and I can see results. And then you're going to ask it, well, what are you asking it to do? Please do deep research to create a trip plan to Glacier National Park, Grand Tetons, and Yellowstone. And that's the ask. I want it to do deep research to create a trip plan. And now I'm going to give it some parameters that constrain that, or I want the trip to be 3 weeks long. It's going to be myself, my wife, and our dog, and you'll see how the dog is important a little later. The fact that I'm mentioning that we have a dog. Also, it's important we're using our truck, pulling an Airstream so it knows we're doing a travel trailer pulled by a truck. We will need at least 2 or 1 down day, at least a down day. Grammar is not super critical for Claude. It knows, but I like to make it sound good. Anyways, need a down day to recharge in the middle, and then ask questions. This is kind of an interesting one. Ask me questions. That's what I tell Claude to ask questions to me on topics you need more detail on. Use the user question feature. This is interesting, and what you'll see what this is, and I'll point it out again. It's going to actually give me choices. Please can deliver it in a downloadable docx file. So this is the shape I want it in. I want it in a downloadable file, not just displayed it, because normally it would just display it on the screen, and I want to be able to edit it. So docx is a portable format. I could have said I want it written in professional tone. I could have said I want a PowerPoint. You can probably imagine it could have been anything. And then down here you can choose which of the engines. They're called models. I like to think of it as the AI engine. And if you're doing really deep research, you can use the top one up here. Just know that the higher up you go on this list, the faster you use up whatever Claude or Anthropic's credits have given you. I pay for the monthly $20 a month plan, so I have some wiggle room in moving up in a plan. But if you're on the free version, I would probably stick down on here. And I've not tested it to see what happens when you go up on the exact same question, but it'd be kind of interesting to do sometime and report back. The other thing that I mentioned before on the video is you can actually use it to record. So you wouldn't have to type this up. You could have actually asked it to interview you, and you could have skipped all this stuff probably, and it would ask those questions. But it's still going to ask some questions. So let's press send, and you'll see what happens. It's thinking. It'll kind of tell you what it's doing as it's going here, which I find very interesting. I could have told it to actually be very verbose on the notes or on the tell me how it's going. Okay, so here's the first result of me saying use the ask. Where did I do that? Use the user question feature. That's what this is. It says, well, what's your target place for park days? Well, we want moderate. What are we looking for? Full days, early starts, longer hikes, hike or an activity, and some rest. Depends on if you ask me or my wife, but I'm going to pick moderate. She would go down here. I might even do here. But I know she's going to be with. And then which activities are top priority? So do we want to do hiking? We're not bringing our e-bikes. We're not bringing our fishing poles. Do I want to do ham radio? POTA stands for Parks on the Air. Not going to get into that. Scenic drives, I like that. I like photography. You say, okay, that's a great question. Campground preference for the Airstream. Well, we want private resorts or no hookups, need reservation early. So it'd be kind of fun to go to national parks, but we're really not set up for boondocking or no hookups for long periods of time. And so I'm going to go with this one just to see. Actually, make sure both. I'll try that. What the heck? Okay. Now it's continuing to think. It's asked 3 questions. I could have actually go back and fix my prompt, but it's got more questions. Should this include the Airstream rally? No, just the 3 parks. Skip mine. Okay, another question. Dogs can't go on most park trails and back. How do you want to handle hikes where he can't come along? Okay, I'm not going to board him. Take turns hiking. Stick mostly dog-friendly trails. Something else. We have air conditioning, so let's skip this question. When do we want to go? Well, we're not going to go. We'll go next. Give you the exact date. We're going to go next fall. We were going to go this fall. Okay, what's the exact date range? I'm going to say September 1st, 2027 through, let's just say September 30th, 2027. We'll go in there. I know that's like 4 weeks, but it'll figure it out. And that's one thing I like about Claude, is it actually can kind of infer what you're talking about. We want to leave on September 1st. A little surprised it didn't ask me where I want to leave from. It knows where I live. That's one thing about Claude that I like a lot is it actually builds up context about you. And I'm not going to get in that in this video, but you can actually tell Claude to remember things. And like it knew we had a trip to Minot planned, Minot, North Dakota for the International Airstream Rally. I didn't say anything about that in my prompt, but it knows that from other chats I've been having with it. So I'm going to let it run here, and I'll come back when it actually is done. Okay, it's running the script to build the document. Research is all done. Converted to a PDF render package for visual check. All kinds of very verbose. You can see it building the document up here. Oh, here's our document. It's all done. Few things knowing. Awesome. We have our trip plan. And I'm going to actually, I guess I can't make this full screen. It starts telling you a few things you need to know about it. Your jog can't join, stuff like that. You need to read that. But then if you look over here, you can see it actually has your journey. Now, remember, all I typed in was this. It asked me a few questions, and look what it built. This is just mind-blowing to me. I mean, it's a really nice, well-formatted document. Tells you the trip at a glance, the travelers, rig, route, total driving, down day. I mean, I could go on and on. Parks, before you go, what you need to do, get passes, stuff about the dog, whether we can bring a dog in the park or things like that. Towing in glacier, as you know, mountain driving is interesting, especially when you're pulling a trailer. And then here's the day-by-day itinerary. I'm not going to go through this with you, but I just wanted to give you an example of how I use AI. And if I didn't like certain things about this, I could go back and say, well, I like this, I don't like that, that, and it'll rebuild this. So you can go back and forth over and over and over again. And I have one other thing I wanted to show you here. So remember I talked to you and I said what you had over here. Let me close this down. What you had up here is called a prompt. Well, let's say you're brand new at AI and you type this in and you said, I want to plan a trip to, please plan a trip to go to Glacier National Park next fall. And that's all you said. Well, when you get, what happens is you sort of, you get what you type in. Now, you could actually tell Claude to help me help you. What could I have done to improve that prompt? And what it's doing is it comes back and it says, okay, that prompt was solid. So it basically said I did a good job, but it does give me some things to change. What I had to assume, and it said silently. Interesting. So that means it just made these decisions, or, it assumed 3 weeks was 21 days. It guessed on how long I like to drive. It guessed, whether I want a full hookups every night or willing to dry camp. Things you could have sharpened. Mention the dog size, temperature, and heat tolerance. POTA, budget matters. So interesting. One structural trip. So, you can actually go back and forth with it to help you improve it. And you could actually even say, rewrite that prompt for me in a better format now that it's actually created the plan. So with that, I think I'm going to end this example and move on to the next one. Okay, this is my second example. One of my favorite uses of Claude, as I've mentioned before, is to use it to help me research hobbies, either existing hobbies and problems I'm having in the hobby or ideas I have. You can even, if you look down here a ways, you'll see one of the things is what can I use to new crafts I can make with wood. I've been using Claude for that. But I also used it and have been continuing to use it to pick a new laser engraver. And so what I thought I'd do is show you a prompt here that actually is similar to what I actually had when I first started the research. And I mentioned projects before. I actually created a project around this. So that way Claude would now remember things on an ongoing basis about a specific topic. So I could actually upload user manuals, spec sheets, things of that nature. And it'll actually keep that all self-contained, all the chats around that self-contained inside of a project. This is just a regular chat window. So let's quickly go through this prompt or request. It says, I want to add a laser engraver to my shop so I can start laser engraving the things I make in the shop, and also for creating new crafts that can uniquely be made on a laser engraver. Please help me do deep research. And I'm told from other YouTubers I watch that saying deep research is kind of a key to Claude. And that might be why my last prompt took so long. But deep research on laser engravers to help me choose which one to purchase. My budget is up to $6,000. I would like to ensure, must have misspelled that. Nope, Grammarly doesn't. That the vendors are well known, have an excellent reputation, and can provide phone support. There needs to be strong community, can't spell, surrounding the companies. My preference would be that there is a strong following on YouTube. It's the way I learn everything, it seems like. I want to be able to use the laser for wood, leather, and acrylic. I don't plan on engraving metal at this time. Ask me questions on the topics you need more details on. And use the user question feature. Please deliver it. So similar stuff right there. So you see what I didn't do. One of the things I didn't do that I did in the first one is I told it who to be. And I didn't quite understand who to say it was, right? So I kind of skipped that feature, but I think it worked nonetheless. So let me hit enter here, or hit the go button, and we'll see what it comes back with. Yeah, here we go. First question, cut through in material or just surface engrave? That's a great question. If you watch my video on laser engravers and the selection criteria, the power of the laser, the wattage of the laser matters a lot. And if you just want to engrave, you can use a pretty light laser. But if you want to cut through stuff, and the thickness matters as well. But I want to both cut and engrave. How much work area of the bed do you need? No. Do you want to make a huge sign all at once? You can always make it in pieces. And so I'm going to say I want to do larger pieces here. And then do you already have ventilation? I've mentioned this on the laser video as well. They stink when you use them. So I have ventilation. I can vent outside. Okay, we're back. It took probably 4 or 5 minutes to do all this research. It actually was showing me the pages it was, or the web pages it was looking at. And now it's rendering the document. You can see it's on page 3. There we go. We have it. Success. Okay, since you need to cut, it gives you some specifics, but let's go over here and look at this, see what it has to say. Kind of interesting. Remember again, I'm going to go back to it. This was my prompt. And look how nicely formatted this came back as. Your requirements at a glance. Basically, gave me a bulleted list of what I told my requirements were. And then CO2 versus diode. Again, if you haven't watched my laser video, go back and watch it. You'll see the difference between those. But it talks about, why this guide focuses on CO2, 3 machines that fit your criteria. So it picked 3 machines that fit my criteria, although I see 4, so I don't know quite what that means. But Thunder Laser is an interesting company. I had not even heard of them, and they have been showing up quite a bit. I did pick the X-Tool P2S, as I've mentioned before, but Thunder, I haven't ordered it yet because I'm waiting for a sale. But you can see down here, it gets through each of these choices. It gives me a 4th one for some reason, but I don't know why. But it goes all the way down here and very thorough research. I could go back and forth on it. I could go back and ask it how I'd improve that prompt, but I did that on my last example, so I'm not going to do that on this one. So with that, you have 2 examples. Hopefully you found this somewhat informative. If you have any more questions, let me know. If you have things you want me to dig deeper into around Claude, let me know that as well. Otherwise, let's get back to talking about the slides and how important it is to stay safe. Thanks. So like all things in life, what's good can be used for bad. I wish it weren't that way, but it's true with the internet. It's true with just about everything, it seems like. People use cars to drive into crowds, but it also can take you on the hospital to have a baby. I mean, so it can be used for good and bad. Well, scammers are using AI, and they've been using AI-like stuff for quite a while, but now it's up their game. And you can probably imagine anywhere there's money involved. So how are they using AI? The first is around grandparent scams or family emergencies. They call up and, or email you or what have you, and use it to scam grandparents or the elderly generation out of money. And I go into that in a bit more, this example. Romance scams. I actually know of a few people that have actually had this happen, and it's pretty scary stuff where, especially if you're lonely and you're, let's say, elderly, and you don't have to be, I guess, elderly to be lonely, but nonetheless, I don't know why it is, but they prey on the elderly. And romance scams where they have a long running. And this is, like I said, really a bad deal because it actually can make it sound like the person loves you. And it doesn't have to be just audio, it can be, or text, it can actually be video now, which is just scary stuff. The third one is around investment or crypto scams. This is where they talk you into investing money into something that doesn't really exist, and really sad stuff. The third one is, fourth one, is really interesting. And you see banks and IRS and a lot of these institutions trying to inform their customers or the public, like the IRS, is in the way they do business and the way they don't do business. Like IRS will never call you and tell you you owe money, as an example. But this is becoming very, very, very popular. And the last one is the saddest one of all, in my opinion. I mean, not saddest, but is one I didn't know existed. And let's say you've been scammed already and you lost $10,000. Well, they'll get a hold of you a month later and say, yep, we figured out who did it. We can get your money back. I just need $1,000 up front for expenses or whatever. And you give them $1,000 thinking you're going to get $9,000 back. And lo and behold, you just spent another $1,000. Isn't that sad? I mean, it's just sad. So why is this hitting retirees specifically? Let's slow down and talk about this for a minute. So adults over 60 lose more money to fraud than any other age group at all. The FBI's most recent full year of data puts the total losses for that group in the billions of dollars. That's a capital B, billions. A sharp jump from just a year ago. So this problem's getting worse. I'm sure as AI gets better and more people are starting to get on the internet and using AI, the more they're going to be getting it. So roughly 1 in 4 people have experienced an AI voice cloning scam, and that's just one of the types, or know someone who has. So think about it. You and 3 other people, among the 4 of you, you probably know somebody or you have experienced it yourself. It's kind of sad how prevalent this is. And get this, AI voice scams or video, it only takes about 3 seconds of your voice in order to actually create a very believable voice of you. A famous senator in Minnesota here, Amy Klobuchar, running for governor. I don't know all the details behind it, but she actually had this happen. There was some audio that had been released of her saying some stuff that wasn't true, that wasn't how she felt, and it was actually all of this kind of stuff. And it didn't take much. Now, granted, her voice is very prevalent in public, right? I mean, she speaks publicly all the time. So how do we avoid this? And the key is the old ways don't work anymore. It used to be that you could read an email and go, oh yeah, this is clearly not real, right? Because they misspelled words, they use bad grammar, I mean, just you could just spot it a mile away. Well, that's not true anymore. AI has actually been getting better, and now it's not uncommon for you to get an email or a voicemail where it's not real, and you can't tell it's not who they say they are. And so you can't use your eyes anymore. You can't use what you're hearing anymore. You need to start paying attention to what they're asking for. So that's kind of key. Detect it by what it's asking you to do. And anytime they want you to give up information or money, pause. So let's get into one example. And this is fictitious, but this kind of thing happens all the time. The phone rings, and it's your grandson. He's been in an accident. He's embarrassed. He doesn't want to tell his mom and dad. He needs $500 right now for a tow truck because his car's in the middle of an intersection. And you hear some talking in the background, and you go, well, how come it's not on your phone, son? I don't recognize the number. He said, well, my phone was damaged in the accident, and I'm using the police officer's phone. So you think to yourself, okay, well, I want to make sure it's you. It sounds a lot like you. He said, let me talk to the officer. So he said, gives the phone to the officer, and this is all AI, mind you, okay? Now you hear a different voice in there. Hi, this is Officer Olson, and your son has been in an accident, and unfortunately we need to move his car right now, and we need you to send that money right now. And it goes on. And you say to yourself, well, there's no way this is fake. Well, the entire call is designed to keep you on your heels and go, 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 go. Speed is of the essence here. They want you to act right now. They don't want you to take time to call anybody, don't want you to do anything. You're thinking to yourself, I need to help my grandson. So then you go, where do I send the money? And that's unfortunately where they hooked you. And it's very sad. And I would tell you that even the crying or the panicked voice will sound like your grandson. So that example was a phone call, but it's not just phone calls. It's actually other things now. Deep fake video calls. And can you imagine if that was a FaceTime call and it was your grandson and you could see him and you could see in the background a wrecked car looked like his car? You'd believe it. I'm certain you would. But anytime there's a sense of urgency and they're asking for money or any other thing of yours, personal information, we get another example, pause. Pause, pause, pause. And built-up personas. This is where it's not in a hurry and they don't ask for anything in the first call. And that's partly where they get the hook. They build up a long-term persona where either it's a romance scam or it's an investment scam. You can imagine you're talking to somebody either through chat or a video call or through phone calls, and you think it's some lovely gal that lives in Florida, if you're a guy like me, and she wants to come visit you, but she doesn't have the money. This is like weeks in. You go, oh, okay, well, that sounds great. Let's get together. And you've seen her voice or seen her face. You've heard her voice. You have emails. You have all kinds of information about her. And you're thinking, there's no way this is AI. So you send her $3,000 to give her a first-class plane ticket because you want her to come up here in style. And don't think that's a fictitious example. And the last one, cloned official calls. We mentioned this earlier where the IRS calls and they say you owe money, you have back taxes, your last taxes were underpaid by $1,000. This one is one that I don't know of anybody that's ever been caught by this because it seems to be the one type of scam where people's radar is up. They go, okay, banks, radar. But I had an example, and it wasn't IRS. It was the gas company. It was wintertime. The gas company called and said, yep, your last payment didn't go through, and our request for payment went unanswered, and we wanted to give you one last chance. The truck is actually on its way to your place to shut off your gas, to disconnect your gas. And I'm thinking to myself, what the heck, you know? And of course, I'm driving at the time, didn't know anything about it. This is an official sounding person on the other end, right? And luckily, I'm still young enough and had the presence of mind where something didn't seem right. Everything sounded right. There was no screw-ups or anything like that. I don't even to this day know if it was a real person or not. But I said, I'm going to hang up and call you guys right back. And the person on the other end started saying, no, no, no. And that was when I knew I absolutely needed to hang up. So I went, click, called back the gas company, and they go, oh, no, this scam has been going on for months, and we're trying to track them down. And unfortunately, they haven't been able to. And I will tell you, the caller ID was even the name of the company. So you can't go by that either, unfortunately. So what are the real warning signs? I'm going to go over a quick list of 4 things here to summarize this. But remember, it's the situation, not the voice, not the text, not the video of the person you see. It's the situation. They're going to have an extreme urgency. They need you to act right now. Don't hang up. Don't call anyone. We need the money yesterday. In my example with the grandson, cars in the middle of the intersection, that sort of thing. They're going to want money in a real strange way, and they want it right now. Unusual payment requests, gift cards, wire transfers, courier cash over, cryptocurrency. Any of those things should be real red flags to you that something doesn't really smell right here. Third one is a second official caller. So in my example, the officer calls you back. And don't be thinking they won't call you back kind of thing. That's pretty good now. Now you think, well, I'm not going to get a call in the same exact scam twice. That happens. And this is where a second caller calls. Like in my example, the officer calls back and it's Officer Olson and say, did you send the money yet? That sort of thing. And the fourth one is secrecy. They don't want you to tell anybody. So urgency, unusual payment request, and somebody else gets involved either on the same call or they call you back. And the fourth one is don't tell anyone. So you might be asking yourself by this point in the video is what actually works then? If you can't really tell based on the grammar or the voice or even the look of the person on the other end of the video call, what are you actually going to do? Well, there's some things you can do that right now anyways are good ways around this problem. The first one is hang up. Just hang up and call back the person on a number you actually have for them. Now granted, this doesn't work if it's a romance scam or something of that nature, but it definitely works for the grandson, and it definitely worked for me for that gas company call. It definitely would work with the IRS. So a large portion of the scams are trying to impersonate somebody you already know. Now, if it's a family member, the next idea would work is where you can have a safe word. And this has got to be my favorite idea of all of them. And as you can imagine, if I was talking to my grandson and I was on a FaceTime call with him and I believed it was him, but just in case, I say, okay, grandson, I have to ask you one question, and what's our safe word? And no AI will ever know that. And so I would suggest you get to your family together and have a conversation about what your family safe word is. And try to keep that away from any audio devices. I can't prove without any doubt that your phone is listening and would actually pick up on that, and AI scammers could end up getting that. But personally, I don't want to take that chance. And so we pull our phones away, go in another room, and talk about a safe word. And I would suggest you change it from time to time, and just like you change your passwords. And the next one's an interesting one. I didn't know this, but if you're on the phone, you can actually say, hang on a second, I have to, whatever, research something, go to the bathroom, whatever, put it on pause or on mute and just set the phone down and count to 60. Because as of right now, a 60-second pause typically is enough where the AI will go away. The AI is going to think you hung up, something's wrong. Usually AI scams don't survive that. And I think that's an interesting one. I haven't tried it, but I'm going to try it next time I have something that sounds like a scam. I'm just going to put it on mute and see when they hang up. I get lots and lots and lots of voicemails lately about people who want to send prior businesses I worked with funding. And I'm going to answer one of them calls one of these days and kind of have fun with them a little bit and see what happens. Maybe I'll record that. So, what happens if you get scammed? And what are some of the things you can do to avoid getting your voice out there? And the first one is keep the videos and voicemails private. Obviously, being on YouTube like I am, my voice isn't private. It's one of the risks of being on YouTube for sure. I mean, you can see what's behind me, all my books, or I guess it's half my books, half Teresa's. You can see a lot about me, but that's just the choice I made. But you can keep your voicemails private. You can avoid getting your videos out. If you have videos you're sharing with your family, keep those private as well. But try to keep your voice and your face and as little out there as possible. And the last one, if you've unfortunately been scammed, there's 3 key things you need to do right away. The first one is call the bank. Call the bank, call the bank, call the bank, or the credit card company, or wherever you sent the money from, and talk to them about it. They have experts that know what to do, and they will help you. And the second thing is call the Federal Trade Commission, FTC. They want to know about stuff like this as well. And then call the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center. I had to look it up, IC3. They actually have a separate part of the FBI that also tracks this stuff. And all 3 of those firms, I should say, a bank, credit card, whatever, can help you. And it can help you. They can't necessarily get your money back, but they definitely can help you avoid it in the future. And as well, I would say they'll help you understand what just happened to you. What you type isn't private. Just assume that. Unless your computer isn't connected to the internet or your phone isn't connected to the internet, and never will be, assume it's not private. But never, ever type your social security number in a chatbot or in a AI prompt, anything like that. Never, ever use your social security number. There are times on the web, no doubt about it, you're on a government website where they're asking for a social security number. There are times, but I would say extra careful that you know exactly what web page you're on when you type that in. Second one, medical details. Never, ever type in your medical details in AI chatbots or chat, windows like prompts and stuff like that, or anywhere else that you don't think is appropriate. And then last but least, never share your full financial info. It's okay for use AI to say, I'm trying to reduce my debt. I have, let's say, $50,000 in credit card debt. I hope that's not you. But if you do, you can have AI help you put together a plan to bring down that debt. Notice I didn't say anything other than I had debt. Now, you could probably not share that, but I'm not going to share where I bank, my banking account information, all that. Never share any of that. That's really, really important. So I hope you enjoyed this video. But I thought I would review the five things I went over. You're already using AI. You just never called it that. It's generally useful, especially things like Claude, whether it's Claude, I guess, ChatGPT, which is from OpenAI, and then Google has one called Gemini, and I know there are others. Now, I personally believe sticking with name brands. Now, I guess Anthropic wasn't a name brand when it started out, but it's the number 1 or number 2 or number 3, depends on what metric you're using. But stick with name brands as well. But they're generally useful, and hopefully you feel the same way now. Scammers use it too. Know their tactics and keep yourself on guard at all times. Anytime you're interacting with a computer, whether it be on your phone or sitting down at a laptop or desktop, know that the thing on the other side isn't necessarily who you think it is, and they aren't thinking with your best interests at heart. Just assume that and then prove otherwise if necessary. And then, like I said, just got done saying what you type isn't always private. And then the last one is AI is easy. It really is. It's like talking to a person. And I didn't show this when I showed my demo, but you could just click a button and microphone turns on, and like you talk to the voice assistant like Siri or Google or one of the other ones, is you can just have a conversation with it. It gets really crazy when you have a conversation with it where you turn it on where it's talking back to you. So like I said, hopefully you found this video somewhat useful and somewhat entertaining. It's probably going to be a little longer than I like, and hopefully you like the fact that I do some videos that are focused on things for retired people. This one obviously is more than just retirees, but definitely is applicable to retirees. and sometimes I'll be in the shop, and sometimes I'll be doing other things. I am switching to one video a week, and hopefully Saturday mornings. This one's not going to be Saturday morning, but one video a week, and then maybe bonus videos as well. I'm trying to edit a video when I went to Oshkosh, the Air Venture, and went to a Rush concert, but I'm not sure I captured enough content, to be quite frank. But hopefully you found this entertaining. Please subscribe, and if you like the video, click like. Those things will help me get noticed by YouTube algorithm and start boosting up my channel, and makes it more fun to record videos when you know more people are going to watch them. But for now, you take care. I hope you all are healthy out there. God bless you, and Curious Kicks out.